what it is that we can do to assist, like put our spiritual hands into this melting pot that is occurring right now. What is happening right now is so big. I know it seems a little crazy. It just has this face, this scary face, but behind it, it's just so beautiful. Because how long have we been talking about everything that's being talked about? And it's not just the community that's talking about this. It's everybody. Like Sally's talking about this. Like Karen is talking about this. It's crazy. I'm mind blown. It's beautiful. I'm having beautiful conversations with strangers, neighbors, everybody's talking about what's going on right now, and in a way that acknowledges what have we been living? That's crazy. How did we let this happen? How did we come so far? And so this scary monster, as it seems, is actually it's been so beautiful to watch unfold. If you follow me on social media, you know that I have been deeply invested in the concept of immortality. I want to give you a backstory as to where the heck and how the heck I have arrived here at this point. If you did listen to my podcast, The Advisor of Gods, when it was The Advisor of Gods, I spoke a lot about the concept of practicing for death. So I'm going to take you to the beginning of my origin story, which revolves heavily around this topic. I grew up Christian. I was a Christian my whole life. I grew up in the church and I was deeply devoted. I was very Christian. My family was very Christian and we went to the same church our whole lives. In 2019, I was in a really dark place. I felt very disconnected from God and my family, and I just didn't get it. I didn't understand what the heck. It's like everything that everybody wanted me to be, I didn't want to be, and I just felt really lost. So I asked God in prayer as a Christian for more. And the church that I went to had this thing called prophecy, where God speaks to you through the Holy Spirit, things that only you and God know. That's actually why I stayed so long in the church, was because it was just irrefutable. Like, how can you argue against that? Hearing things that only you and God know. You'd think growing up in that church, not seeing that that's also occurring outside of the church, you just give that church the honor of it being the truth because you don't know anything outside of that. And so during this dark time of my life, I gave myself fully to God. If I could, I would just curl up in a ball at the end of church service and just live in church. I was just so done. I wanted to be so spiritual. I wanted nothing to do with the world because God was the only thing that ever brought me joy. I felt like the world brought me everything but joy. And the only place I felt safe was with God. So long story short, I am going through a dark time. I ask God for more. God in prophecy tells me, and because you have sought my truth, I will show you the truth. That week, I ended up reading the book of Genesis from the beginning because I was starting to get really serious about church. And I found this verse in Genesis about Enoch. And it said, Enoch was a perfect man that never saw death, and he walked with God. And that touched me. It's like, I want to be like Enoch. I want to walk with God and never see death. And so, long story short, I ended up in the library, picked this book out in a hurry. I didn't even read the title. That same week that I read that verse. And it ended up being this book called Fallen Angels, Why the Church Fathers Suppressed the Book of Enoch and the Book of Enoch. Long story short, I read that book. The whole matrix of religion collapsed on me. This forever Christian in one book just everything collapsed. It made me realize that everything up to this point that I knew was not real. I was being lied to in some way, shape, or form about the truth, about God, about religion, and my whole matrix crumbled. I fell into such a deep, dark place, and I was going through what they called the dark night of the soul. I did conclude, though, that the Book of Enoch was real, and Enoch was a real person. That's what I felt in my heart when I finished reading the book, and that they were hiding the Book of Enoch from the Bible. Because I concluded that Enoch was a real man, and he did not see death, and he did walk with God, I just wanted to know more. Like, now I need to find the truth, because obviously the Bible is not holding it. And so what else is out there? And so my journey began. One book led to another, one video led to another, and I went down the rabbit hole of metaphysics, spirituality, occult knowledge. Because I came from a Christian background, it was really easy for me to connect with my higher self. Because that practice is proven and true, I kept inquiring with spirit, and spirit kept talking back to me in some way, shape, or form. I didn't know what was going on at this point, but I did know that I was being guided, even with the book. That was a crazy story. This whole process led me to what I call the practice of death. Because everything that I knew to be true was false, I had to start over. And so I grabbed a notebook and I wrote on the first page, New Genesis. And I was like, okay, I have to rewrite and figure out from the start, from the beginning, what the heck do I know about what the heck this is, where the heck I'm in, what is God, what am I, what is going on? I need to figure this out. And so what occurred to me, where to start, was just science. And I thought about how there's matter and then there's dark matter. Matter is everything that takes up space, and then dark matter seems to be like the other thing, what I like to call the space between the fingers, right? Because you can never touch anything. You're never touching anything, right? And so that led me to inventing, trying out, experimenting new things. And what I invented called the practice of death. I did it through various things. If you listen to my first podcast, Pragmatically Speaking, I would expose myself to shocking situations, and try to alchemize it. So ease into it, feel pleasure instead of shock. But something I haven't talked about yet was how, in my acknowledgement of this boundary, this veil between me and the next thing, my practice of death in meditation often looked like me closing my eyes and imagining that the air around me was like this membrane, this like mucus, like it was a liquid. It was something. It was there. It wasn't not just nothing. And then in me closing my eyes, I would try to, with my spirit, lift myself out of myself to try to pierce that membrane, to pierce that veil, to pierce even my own boundary. The continuous practice of this, I believe, is what has allowed me to explore this idea that I'm going to continuously share with you here. I really feel that it all began here with me seeking to, at will, pierce this veil. I also believe that the reason why the times I did psychedelics for the first few times, the reason why I would just leave my body, like just immediately, I was just gone, because I was, when I was doing that, I was actually doing that. Like I was really taking myself there. I would really pierce that veil. And my experience was so strange because I would end up being other things. I would even sometimes possess other people. I know that sounds weird, but I wasn't controlling any of it. It was just happening, and I was just watching this experience. I did do over 10 grams multiple times. And so psychedelics kind of became, for me, that practice ground, the actual way that I was practicing for death. I believe the reason also why I went so far, like I went so deep, I actually probably died, was because at this time in my life, I wasn't afraid of death. I was very okay with just like not making it back. I didn't have any attachments. I wasn't in a good place with my family. I wasn't in a good place with myself, with how my life looked. I didn't care. I just wasn't scared of dying. I really feel that really played a big role in how those experiences played out for me, because I really went all the way there. I really do feel that I actually died and I came back. There was one time that I woke up and there was pools and pools of blood, and I had no idea what happened other than I had fallen and cut myself. I ended up in the hospital multiple times. That did not scare me from going in again. I even ended up in a catatonic state at one time. I was gone for 3 days. I really do feel that those experiences were really intense because I was going in with the want to know what was on the other side of death. So I feel that death must be a price to be paid if I want to see what's on the other side of that. So I feel that that's why all those experiences were really intense. But I really went all the way there multiple times. There was multiple times where I spent multiple lifetimes. What is hours here is like lifetimes over there. And I came to the conclusion that what I am is actually a stream of consciousness. What God is a stream of consciousness. These eyes, these forms that God takes is how God is choosing to experience this reality. Throughout all those experiences, I started connecting the dots. I didn't have what people call personal experiences. Like, the experiences never had anything to do with Laura. All the experiences were either me being in the body of another being, me seeing through the eyes of something else. I've even felt what it felt like to be objects, certain objects. I experienced what it feels like to live outside of space and time. Obviously, infinite amounts of experiences. I could never sit here and finish telling you everything that I've experienced. It would just not be possible. What I was really interested in was seeing through the eyes of God. What does God feel like? What does God experience? What is it going through? How is it that it formulated existence? What were the intentions, the plan? What is it getting out of this? And I believe that that's why I just experienced so many eyes, because I came to the conclusion that God is this streamline of consciousness moving through all things. And so it's actually experiencing everything everywhere all at once. And so the main thing I was shown was that the whole thing is me. I am. When I went through these experiences, I wasn't this. I wasn't Laura. I am now partaking as Laura, but this is not what I am. It's so obvious when you do something like psychedelics. And so the streamline of consciousness is experiencing itself through this body named Laura. In that moment, when you're deeply in it, when you're in it all the way, it really feels that you are that pure line, streamline of consciousness. And what my experience was that it was like the whole experience could feel that I was aware. And because of it, it was just all talking to me, wanting to express. It's like all the prayers, all the thoughts, all the wants, all the needs, all the desires, they were all available to me. If I could summarize all these different voices, that was the core message. I want to be used. I want to be experienced in the fullness of everything that it means to be experienced. That's what I want. And it was yearning, like reaching, and I could feel the pain. I could feel all the emotions, all the pain, the beauty, everything. It's quite literally everything, everywhere, all at once. And so waking back up in this body felt like I must remember that that's actually what I am. I am that streamline of consciousness. Why was it so important for me to realize that I am the streamline of consciousness and not this? Why? It was because I collectively am needing to take all into consideration, and I'm not doing that as a singular being. I, as a singularity, am so far out from this oneness that I used to be at some point that I'm not taking the whole thing into consideration. And so what that looks like is war and children being and all these awful things. I have forgotten to take the whole thing into consideration. I was having this conversation with my friend, and he was just like, but where's the line? Because, all this that you have experienced, I have experienced it. But where's the line? Because, it feels heavy to take that on. It feels that there has to be some sort of boundary. Like I can't hold the whole thing, right? And so what I told him was, this concept that you technically don't have a face because you've never seen it before, except for in a reflection or a mirror. And so to be existing here is to be perceived. And what is that? That's a mirror. It means that this whole thing is a giant mirror. And so I told him, because he, like many of us, are into the spiritual bypassing. Oh, if I just focus on the positive, more positive will come, and etc. You know how that goes. And so I told him, I said, imagine that you're standing in front of a giant mirror. Everything that you do in front of this mirror is going to be reflected in the mirror in front of you. If you put up your arm, the mirror will do the same. It will reflect that back to you. And so I told him, I said, if you are standing in front of this giant mirror, and in the corner of your eye to the right, you see you see war happening. What are you going to do? Are you going to just look to the left? Like, you're just going to look away? But that's you. You're seeing that. That's in your perceptual, meaning that you are a part of that. That came into your perceptuals, meaning that as you are going like this, that mirror is also doing that. Why is that true, right? Because technically speaking, I'm the only one here. You can't look through my eyes. What if I was an NPC? What if I was a robot? You could never know that. You could never ever know that. Why? Because you can't see through my eyes. You can only see through yours, meaning that you're the only thing real to yourself. And so that's where the line is. That's where you draw the line. He's like, where's the line? I'm like, well, that's the line. The line is the fact that you could never see through my eyes. You could never know if I was real or not. You could never know that. And so you are responsible for you, which is everything that comes into your perceptuals. There's nobody else here but you. And by here, I mean here. Like, I'm talking right now, and I'm not here in this room. There's something inside me that's moving through me, speaking out. I'm talking about in here. There's nobody else in here but me. And so the way that I see it is that there's levels to this experience. There's levels to the evolution of your consciousness. You can live your whole life standing in front of the mirror and trying to make it work for yourself so you can ignore what's happening in the corner of your eye, just to make yourself feel good or whatever. But there comes a point in the experience. I had to do a lot of psychedelics in order to come to this conclusion. I had to go through deep levels of meditation and inner work to come to the conclusion that I'm going to have to address that, whether I like it or not. For some reason, that feels heavy to somebody that doesn't know what I'm about to say next. You can obviously only do your best to the best of your ability, because you know that consciousness is primordial, yes, comes before anything physical. And if, again, you missed that whole lesson in The Advisor of Gods, I highly recommend you go back to that podcast and listen to that whole season. It really breaks down step 1 type vibe. Because you know that consciousness comes first, even though you don't know exactly what to do about that, looking away is stupid. Like, you can't just, it makes no sense. You look so silly standing in front of the mirror, looking at yourself, just going like this. That makes no sense. The proper thing to do, the intelligent thing to do, is to address that, even within yourself. It can be as simple as saying, hey, coming to terms, hey, I don't know what to do. I don't have the capacity currently. I don't have the tools. I don't have the awareness even right now to know what to do about that. But I know that something must be done about that. So because I know that consciousness comes first, hey, enlighten me. Higher self, use me. Allow me to know what it is that I can do to serve you and make everything come into order so that I can learn with proper guidance what to do about that. Because that is fucked up. If I am this, I don't tolerate this. If I am this, which I am, right? I am the whole thing. For you to take the next step, if you want to be an immortal, you gotta put on your big girl pants, your big boy pants, to realize that that's you. That is not separate from you. You're doing that. The reason you are is because you are the whole thing. And the reason why you're gonna continue to do that is because you're not acknowledging that you're doing that. So the first step to do something about it is to actually acknowledge that you're the one doing it so that you can do something about it. And to know that if anybody's going to do anything about it, it's going to be you. You're the only one that can do anything about it. And so again, because I know that consciousness comes before this, I will take the time to acknowledge, I will take the time to claim my power and know and call upon a version of myself that can do something about it. When you go through that experience, that you're actually being shown these things, it's so heavy. It's so, the horrors, it's so heavy. As some of us are actually starting to actually see, even without the psychedelics, how heavy these things are, of what actually is going on. And the reason that we have made it here to this point, this great awakening, it's just really, I'm telling you, like, Sally from the corner, everybody, like, this is not just the spiritual community or conspiracy theorists, like, everybody is witnessing these horrors, the past, what we're coming out of, like, that's real. Let's say that you watch this and you do not want to take that next step in your evolution, because what I'm talking about is the next step of evolution. It's actually holding that part of ourselves. It's holding the whole thing. Like, we're waking up to the fact that, hey, this is me and I need to hold the whole thing. And because I have the capacity to, it doesn't feel heavy because I'm growing my thoris, my toroidal field is growing to encompass, to hold the whole thing. we're becoming the higher self. We're becoming the spirit guides at this point. Like, that's the next step in our evolution. We are becoming the ancestors. Like, if you don't want to take that step in your evolution, like if you listen to this message and you decide that for some reason it's too much, which is not, if you know what's going on, if you learn to know yourself. And so after receiving this message, there's really only two ways to go about this, right? Is that you can continue to look at yourself in the mirror and go like this. It's called spiritual bypassing. Everybody's doing this. Or you have the person yelling at the mirror in front of them, trying to change something. But if you're watching this and you realize, that's so silly, that none of that makes sense, something must be done, right? I'm standing in front of the mirror, that's occurring. I'm gonna do something about that. I'm going to address my reflection. That's the accountable thing to do. Like, let me hold myself accountable for all that I am experiencing. That is the most intelligent, most wise thing to do. If you do decide to take this next step in evolution, like I said, look, you may not have the answers. I may not have the answers for you specifically, because again, God is moving through each line of consciousness differently. So what is there for me to do might be different for you to do. You must ask for guidance. You must now say, hey, that's not correct. And yes, I am that I am. Therefore, I have the capacity to somehow, some way partake in the correcting of myself. Because you don't know what to actually do right now, that is the next step. I'm going to give you a spiritual tool. It's called reaching. That meditation I used to do to try to come out of my body, to give you a reference of what that may look like pragmatically, it would be like an astral projection meditation. Your spirit is reaching. That's what reaching is. It's like, not with your hand, but with your spiritual hand. You're coming out to try to this is a spiritual tool. You may use this for all sorts of things, anything, for you to find the next step on your journey. You may not know what to do, but you can reach. And so allow your spirit to reach for the solution, which is within you. Because as God is moving through you, the omniscient, omnipotent entity that is moving through you, it knows all things. Your higher self knows all things. And so reach. That is what you can do. You can do something about that. That is how I have gotten to where I am today. And I would love to share with you what that looks like pragmatically speaking, maybe another time, but the miracles of my life, just like I have bended the spoon type vibe, I have bended this reality. I will share testimonies in the next few videos. You have complete capacity to completely bend this reality. Laws go out the window. The laws of physics, the laws of man, they go out the window. They go out the window. I have proven that to myself, and I would love to share that with you. And so that's that. You are who you are at the end of the day. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to worry. It would be fearing yourself. The other side is just more of you. There's nothing to lose. There's nothing to gain. There's nothing to afanarse, rush yourself into. You're so good. You're so good as long as you're doing something about it. And so reach. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for entrusting me with your ears and just being open to receiving this seed that is just so good for you, that it's a reminder of your infinite potential. I love you. See you on the next one. Mwah.